Alright, so Tatsuro Taira versus Hyung Sung Park is this Saturday. I'm gonna go through the whole card, giving you who I think will win each fight, how I think each fight will play out. I gotta be honest, man. There's a couple fights I'm looking forward to, and some of these fights just make absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. But we start off with Austin Bashi versus John Yanis. Um, I had no idea who John Yanis is. He's a regional fighter. KO'd Nick Aguirre and Fury. Actually had three TKOs in a row. Got submitted and then won a split decision. Austin Bashi, who was a huge favorite in this fight, lost to Christian Rodriguez in his first fight in the UFC. Got a rear naked choke on the Contender Series against Dwayne Ramos and came in off of a ton of finishes on the regional scene. Um, I'm gonna go Bashi. He can mix. He can mix things up well. He can strike. He can wrestle, and having the ability to mix those up and make your opponent second guess. It's a really good thing to have. But again, I'm mainly going with Bashi because I have no idea who John Yanis is. So we move on to the next fight, which is Piera Rodriguez versus Caitlin Souza. Um, this is a tricky one. Typically, women's MMA is tricky. I hate how this mic keeps on Um, so yeah, Pierre Rodriguez, Caitlin Souza. Um, Caitlin Souza won 3-2 in the last five. Just beat Josephine Knudsen by unanimous decision. Got DQ'd over an intentional headbutt. And got submitted by Jillian Robertson, who Jillian Robertson actually has a lot of potential, is really talented, and then she beat Sam Hughes and Kaya Hansen. Before that, you go over and you look at Kaylin Souza, though, she just lost a split decision to Angela Hill, which was close. Beat Yasmin Yargui with a rear naked choke and Monica Man losing to Kareem Silva by a knee bar and beating Christina Williams in Invicta, I do believe. But this is a tricky one. I like what Caitlin Souza brings to the table. She's good on the feet, pretty decent on the ground. But I'm gonna go with Pierre Rodriguez by decision. I go with decision for every single women's MMA fight. What do you expect from me? We have no idea how to really know who is good in women's MMA and who isn't outside of what the top five in all women's MMA. But yeah, go Rodriguez. She has some good wins. Lost to Julia Robertson, which, like I said, Julia Robertson is a really good fighter. Having a really good come up in the UFC. But yeah. At the end of the day, you never know with women's MMA. Then we move on to Felipe Burns versus Rafael Esteban. This is a good fight. However, both of these guys have really bad gas tank issues, and the longer the fight goes, the less output you see from them. When I look at this fight, you got Felipe Burns, who just beat Jose Johnson with an armbar. Got KO'd by Joshua Van, who's fighting for the belt next. Then an LFA. beat Yuma Horiuchi had a split decision and lost to this guy Brandon Nate. So Rafael Esteban, 13-0 undefeated, just beat Jesus Aguilar in his last fight 5 months ago. Beat Charles Johnson, got a TKO over Hala Ellis on the Contender Series, and then in the LFA got a KO and beat Eric Visconti by unanimous decision. I'm gonna go with Esteban purely because he has submission potential. Both of these guys, like I said, when you get into the second and third rounds, they are not the fighter that they started the first round often. Which again, these guys are fighting at the highest level. I can't really knock them, but I'm just more confident in Esteban potential point off for submission. But I see it going to a decision with Rafael Esteban controlling more of the fight. We then move on to Rodolfo Vieira versus Trace Gore. Man, Trace Gore, what can you really say about this guy? Um, Now, where am I? Where's my notes on this? And my notes are here. Well, either way, though, I'm gonna go Rodolfo Vieira. There's no doubt about it. He lost to Andre Petrosky in his last fight. Submitted Armand Petrosky with an arm triangle, and Cody Brundage, which are two really good wins to have. He lost to Chris Curtis, who just moved down to 170. And Chris Curtis is good. He submitted Dustin Storks first. Now, Trace Gore, he got KO with Marco Tullio 3 months ago, and you have to factor in how of that knockout loss affect him in this fight. He did get two submission wins, standing guillotine over Antonio Ciccone and Josh Fremd. Got KO'd by Cody Brundage, lost to Brian Battle by unanimous decision, but he looked decent in the Brian Battle fight. I I'm just gonna go with Rodolfo Vieira though, mainly because Gore got KO'd in his last fight. I don't know how he's gonna recover from it. Not a technical fighter either. Rodolfo Vieira is a grappler, and apart from that guillotine, I don't really see Tristan Gore having much on the ground to compete with Rodolfo Vieira. So I see him pulling out a decision, maybe a split decision. Tristan Gore might impress us, but I mean, he weighs a lot to beat us out. His striking, man, it's come out like his striking and stand up is there, but it's not there at the same time. Like it's one of those cases where you look at this fighter and you watch him fight and you cannot tell if he's good or bad. Like I genuinely do not know. I lean towards the mediocre side, but I mean I don't want to shit on him, man, too much. Who can knock my ass out or submit me or do something. Then we move on to Rina Nakamura versus Nathan Fletcher. Rina Nakamura having his first loss against Gafarov in his last fight. Gafarov is really good. Gafarov has a, a lot of decent wins within this division. Before that, though, beat Carlos Vieira, beat Bernie Garcia, Toshomi Kazama, and on the road to the UFC, got a TKO. Nathan Fletcher, he's coming off of a split decision loss to Lafren. Before that was on a 3-fight win streak. Submitted Ramalski with an arm triangle. Submitted Dane Dujas and Alessandro Giordano. Um, and a TKO loss as well. I'm gonna go with Nakamura now. He's a better fighter, but he needs to work on his striking. We obviously know, like, Reina Nakamura grew up around MMA, grew up training and all this stuff. But his stand up, man, it's just not there. It's not there. I really feel like every time the fighter's on the feet, he is just left there out to dry. And now, once he gets to the mat or up against the cage, Rina Nakamura is a beast. But again, for a guy that has been training in martial arts, has been around this game his entire life, I expect him to have better striking than what he does. And how old is he? He's 30 years old. I mean, he has a bit of time to grow in the bantamweight division, but again, the bantamweight division, man, it's a very, very steady division with a lot of guys who are elite strikers, elite grapplers, and can finish you. I just, I need to see more from Rina Nakamura to really get behind him. I think he should be Nathan Fletcher, though. I kind of think this is a pretty bad matchup for Nathan Fletcher. But we move on to Nick Klein versus Andre Pulev. Now, Nick Klein, well, this is actually a near even fight. Uh, Well, Nick Klein is 3-5 in his last two. Got KO'd by Mansour Abdulmalik, who's undefeated, has a lot of power. Very scary. He had a submission win on the Contender Series submission win. Well, three submissions in a row. Got KO'd over at BTC. Then Andre Pulev. He lost to Christian Leroy Duncan in his last fight. Christian Leroy Duncan has potential. I'm not sure if he becomes a contender, but I think Christian Leroy Duncan will hang around the UFC level for at least a few years. Before that, got a unanimous decision over Wayne Anderson on the Contender Series. KO over Will Oliveira, submission, and another KO. I'm gonna go with Andre Pulev, man. When I look at this fight, he's a range striker. We know what we're getting with him. Nick Klein, though, I really do not know. I just think Pulev has a better X factor in the grappling, and that's really what it comes to. I'm not really convinced that Nick Klein to this point. And again, this is a guy who got KO'd by Mansour Abdulmalik in his first official MMA fight. The fights that I've seen of his, though, he leaves a lot to be desired, and I just think Polyev, with the experience he has, with the skill sets that he has, I just think he takes this fight. Again, though, I'm gonna get to the rant about the prospects later. I think we move on and focus on the card before I go on a tangent here. Danny Silva versus Kevin Bahalos. Danny Silva 10-1 on a 4-fight win streak. Just beat Lucas Almeida in a close fight. Beat Josh Corbo. Beat Angel Pacheco on the Contender Series as well as a KO win in LFA before coming here and lost a majority decision. His only loss. Danny Silva is really good. I really do like Danny Silva on the feet. Kevin Bahalos, though, major favorite going into this. Really good striking. Just TKO Ruhu Choi, TKO Cam Teague, and he's just been on a finishing tear. He did lose to John Silva in his first fight on the Contender Series, but it was a close fight against a guy who was going most likely going to be fighting for the belt within the next year. Now, I really do not want to see John Silver fight Volkanovski because that would make me severely depressed, I feel like. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Valhalla to get it done in the second round. Basically, he's early Euphoria, still short boxer, kind of style, and he's a great prospect. He's a really good prospect. Once again, too, losing to John Silver, a guy who's going to be fighting for the title very soon, and I think not a bad loss to have when you come into MMA. And I really do expect him to make it to the top of featherweight during his career. Then we get to a beautiful fun matchup here. Neil Magny versus Elijah Zaleski. Both of these guys are veterans. It's one of these fights where it's two old names going at it. Neil Magny just got killed by Carlos Prates before Carlos Prates lost to Ian Gary. Vicious knockout. Then he got killed by Michael Morales. Those are two brutal fights that have back to back, I'm not gonna lie. He also KO'd Mike Malott, but Mike Malott was winning that fight up until he wasn't. It was a very weird finish to that fight where Mike Malott gassed out. He lost to Ian Gary, beat Phil Rowe. But Neil Magny, even though he's never been an actual contender, he's a bit like Jeff Neal, right? Where he's always been at the cusp of being a contender, and he's kind of been the standard for welterweight most of his time in the UFC. And Elijah Zaleski, pretty up and down. He just kind of got killed by Shadina Jokovani, killed Zach Scourgeon, lost to Randy Brown, had a draw with Renat Fakhretdinov, which was a pretty good fight. Renat Fakhretdinov, too, really good. I do like his style. And he beat Abubakar Nurmagomedov by split decision. Look, this isn't a fight for the rankings. This is feel like just two veterans going at it here. And I'm just going to go with Zaleski here. I think that Neil Magny really walked out in that Mike Malott fight. If Mike Malott did not gas out, he was going to continue to batter and break Mike Malott in that fight. What it happens, man. Happens with age, but I don't know. Typically, these veteran fights are fun, and I expect it to be a fun fight. Still, though, I think Pulaski will get the nod here. Then we move on to Carol Rosa versus Nora Canoli. I actually do really like Nora Canoli. I think that she is one of the funner female fighters to watch. Cal Rosa, though, she just lost to Wayne Perez 6 months ago by unanimous decision. She beat Penny Kindzad, lost to Irene Aldana, beat Yana Santos, and lost to Norma Dumont. Cal Rosa has been around the top of the division. She has been in there with some of the tougher fighters in bantamweight. Which I think that bantamweight and women's MMA is about to have a surge. We do have a lot of really good um, female fighters on the come up. Then you move over to Nora Canoli, who just submitted Haley Kwan in the last fight 3 months ago. It looked really good in that fight, basically controls the entire fight. She lost to Jacqueline Calvacanti by a close split decision. But before that, KO Melissa Mullins with the knee to the body, followed by a head kick. Beat Joseline Edwards and had a KO before she came into the UFC. I'm a big fan of Nora Canoli. Now, Carol Rosa is the favorite going into this. But I just think Nora Kanoe has better kickboxing. I think she has really good jiu-jitsu. She's an up and comer. And the biggest thing is Carol Rosa in most of her fights is very hesitant. When she has the lead in a fight, she's very reluctant to go out there and push for a combination, push the fight, and really put a stamp on her rounds. While Nora Kanomi, I don't see that issue with her. Again, she did have this loss to Cavalcanti. Really close fight though. But yeah, I think Nora Kanomi gets it done there by decision. And I think she picks apart Taylor Rosa most of the fight. Maybe Rosa can have a second round comeback where, Nora Kanomi outpoints her in the first. Rosa maybe pushes her in the second. Then in the third, I feel like Nora Kanoe will have her range down and she'll be able to pick apart Rosa to win the decision. But yeah, then we move on to insert Fight of the Night Paycheck versus Elvis Brenner. Dude, Esteban Rebovich is incapable of having a bad fight. This guy comes into these events purely to have a war. He is one of my favorite fighters. Fighting at Argentina, 29 years old. I even have him as a favorite. He did lose to Hawk Cross in his last fight was fourth decision. Has wins over Daniel Zahobra, which is a phenomenal fight. Terrence McKinney, he KO'd. Camilla Kurtz, he beat by unanimous decision. And he had a unanimous decision loss. But again, dude, he just kind of like that Justin Gaethje archetype of, I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to brawl with you. Then you look at Elvis Brenner over here on a 2-fight losing streak. Just got killed by Yoel Alvarez, cracking in to the top 15 at 155. A younger guy looking to make his name in the division. He had a fight with Miktek Orbai, or Mikbek Orbai. I can never say these names. Really good fighter, had the fight of the year last year. Then he was on a 3-for-1 streak, KO, and he split decision. I think Ribovich takes this. Again, man, the guy is just a walking war machine. Um, the it was a very close fight, very close fight with Hawk Frost. Could have went either way. One of the judges even gave it to him. Um, and he always comes to strive. Every fight he is in is fight of the year worthy. And I just think that's no different here. I expect him, you know, to trade in the first and second rounds. Then in the third round, I expect him to find maybe takes to the body or wires Elvis Brenner down. Brenner drops his hands, and then Ribovic is able to tag him and follow it up against the cage. But yeah, this fight should be a war. This is probably my most anticipated fight on this card. Then we move in to our co-main event: Chris Duncan versus Mateus Zembeski. Chris Duncan 4-1 in his last five. Just submitted Jordan Vucinic. Beat Pelagio Key by submitting him as well. He got submitted by Manel Torres, but Manel Torres, really good fighter. Beat Yanel Schmoose and Omar Moraes. Chris Duncan, we know what we get with him, decent striking. Has really, really channeled the grappling in his last few fights. Going in there against Mateus Rebetsky, who just again had fight of the year against Miktik Orbai. which was a split decision, one of the greatest fights of all time. He did get TKO by Diego Ferreira, but Diego Ferreira is a menace. Beat Roosevelt Roberts, beat Wake Radzhabov, and Nick Ford. I expect Rebecki to get it done. And Rebecki, man, this is a major step up for Chris Duncan. This is a major jump in competition from his last fight against, who was again Jordan Vucinic. Oh yeah. Um, I just think he's better. I think he outworks him. Again, he just had the war of a century last year. And I think through 3 rounds, he'll be able to find his shots. He'll be able to constantly pressure Chris Duncan, make it. Um, I think he makes it very hard for Chris Duncan to really find his range or get Rebecca to the ground. Even then, Mateus Rebecca, if the fight goes to the ground, I don't think Chris Duncan has the advantage there. Maybe a slight advantage, but I still like Mateus going into this fight. And I think he wins it by unanimous decision. Again, I don't get this fight. I think this is a major jump for Chris Duncan. I think Mateus Rebetsky should be looking at guys near or even inside the rankings. But yeah, it should be a fun fight. Again, I really like Rebetsky. He absolutely earned my respect with that fight last year. And then we move in to the main event, Tatsuro Taira versus the late replacement, Hyung Sung Park. Now, Tatsuro Taira minus 360 favorite, just fought Brendan Roybal, lost in a split decision. I had Brendan Roybal winning that fight, but it was a good fight. It was a good fight. It did show up. It did perform. He KO'd Alex Perez, KO'd Carlos Hernandez, which uh, everybody KO'd Carlos Hernandez. Then he beat Edgar Cerise and Jesus Aguilar by submission. Hung Sung Park has been on a tear though. Beat Carlos Hernandez as well, submitting him. KO'd Shannon Ross, submitted Sungak Choi, and beat these two other fighters. One Renee took one submission. Now, I believe wasn't Tatsuro Taira supposed to fight Amir Albazi? I think yeah, Amir Albazi, right? Yeah. So it was supposed to be Amir Albazi, which means Tatsuro Taira has had a full training camp. Hyung Sung Park is getting off the couch. I think Hyung Sung Park is more well rounded. I think Hyung Sung Park, with a full training camp, beats Tatsuro Taira. And I still kind of think I'll for sure notice I just have a feeling he gets it done. I just have a feeling that it is a 5 round fight. Jumping into a main event, a 5 round fight with short notice is difficult. But I just like what I've seen from Hong Kong Park more than what I've seen from Tatsuro Taira and the UFC. I Tatsuro Taira, you look at him, a lot of canceled fights, lost to Roy Bell, beat Alex Perez, Carlos Hernandez, Jesus Aguilar. He has picked up a lot of pretty good wins in the UFC. He had the three first round finishes before coming into the UFC, and he was a monster to start his career. I think Tatsuro Taira is really good. I think he is a young, really, really talented fighter. Obviously, we know the Japanese market is major, but I don't know. It's difficult, man. It's tough because my head's saying, well, it's short notice. Tatsuro should take this. But everything is telling me that Hyung Sung Park is a better fighter. Hyung Sung Park has been on a better run. Am I really going to go with the guy on short notice? It is a big opportunity. It really is a big opportunity. You know what? Hyung Sung Park third round TKO. I'm calling it. We saw it with Brendan Roybal, but I mean, okay, Brendan Roybal completely different level from Hyung Sung Park. But I just think he's a better fighter. And I think that if Hong Sung Park shows up and he's around what he usually is, I think he beats Tatsuro Taira. I think the grappling, will go in his favor. I think that the loss to Pantoja could play a bit mentally in how Tatsuro Taira approaches this fight. But again, there's sure no. I'm going with Park. I'm going with Park. Third round TKO, major win, propels him into the title picture most likely, which we know we got Pantoja versus Bang coming up. Flyweight, man, it always has been one of the funner divisions to watch. Not very promotable, you're not going to have very big names, but for high level MMA, this is a place you find it. I think Park knocks him out. I really do. I really think that we're gonna see a spectacular finish in the third round off of Park coming off of the couch, and then he makes that division much more interesting. But let me know, what do you think about my predictions down below. Uh, do you agree with me? Disagree with me? What are your picks? All of that. That's what I got. Wait.